Welcome back, everybody. It is Monday afternoon. It's August the 12th, 2024, and you're asking yourself, oh my goodness, this does look like the smallest box. And they actually shipped it this way. The other people that I've seen getting this, they put it in bigger boxes. I guess they felt confident. This likely is a guitar that would survive literally any potential catastrophe just in the design of it. This is the first and likely the only Donner guitar that I will ever own, and the reason why I bought this, you can see right here, this is the Hush I. Now some people call it the Hush 1, but my way of thinking is that a 1 is going to have a little line and a little line, so that looks like an I to me, so I'm going to call it the Hush I. So we're just going to crack this thing open. One thing I wanted to make a note of is there stuff rattling around in here. I have no idea what that means. It's probably not an issue, but I just like to point these things out ahead of time in case there is something that's a little bit wacky. This was bought as a refurbished, certified refurbished on eBay. Sold by Donner, so it's not a third-party seller. And interesting enough, on the ad it said includes guitar and bag only. So my first question was, I wonder if it includes the, for lack of a better word, the wings. As you will see, I'll be surprised and more than a bit disappointed if it doesn't, because they're a part of what makes this guitar unique. Okay, how do we get out of this? We look like we're in a... I want to take this apart in a way that if it has to go back, it goes back in the best condition it can. I don't want to just rip the box open and then have to deal with the aftermath. So we're getting close. Okay, so let's just see if we can get this open. Person in the tape department gets credit for doing a good job. Okay, well, it looks like they didn't tell the truth. They sent the accoutrements that they said they weren't going to. Now what matters most to me is, does it have its wings? And I'm guessing it will, because this looks like a wing here. Sweet. So that's a pleasant surprise. And then I believe that wing number 2 is in its own little accoutrement pack. And that's supposed to be right here. So they did send the wings. And I'm hoping they sent the extra screws and bolts and nuts, and although I'm thinking that might be the one thing that's missing, and that would be really sad unless it's in here. Let's just look. I'll bet they are. Let's be optimistic. Because yeah, they don't send the nuts and the bolts. There's that, there's that. Well, yes, they did. Well, I'm not really sure. I'm sort of surprised here because this is like everything they said they weren't going to send. They sent it all. So I don't know if I got lucky because it was very clear that no accessories came with this guitar. This guitar has all its accoutrements, and I didn't really care or need any of them. I know the battery is probably the cheapest battery known to humankind. From what I understand, the guitar doesn't sound that good with the earbuds, so I didn't really need the earbuds. I'm curious to see how high the action is. It looks painfully high. We're going to check out the... Okay, so we're just going to go tune this thing up. I'm going to put a strap on it and tune it up. But yes, behold, the Hush. And yeah, I'm really surprised. They gave me everything they said they weren't going to give me, so woohoo! We'll be back. Well, welcome back everybody. It is now 5 o'clock in the evening. And again, this is August the 12th, 2024. And this is, again, sometimes they like to give these things interesting names. I'm still going to go with that this is a Hush I travel guitar. Some people may call it the One. I'm going to call it the I. Anyways, so spend a little time working with it. You can see I've already added some I consider ugly modifications. Certainly can be changed instantly, but I have a little bit of tubing that I added to just take a little of the edge off the metal. And I'm probably going to put some painter's tape right here. Again, ugly, 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 but that'll at least keep the guitar from getting scratched for the moment. Since I'm in the honeymoon phase, there's the slight possibility I would return this guitar, although I don't think I'm going to. Again, you have to keep in mind that it's a one-trick pony for the most part. It's an acoustic guitar. You can put a little bit of drive on it and push it a little bit and get a little bit of groove going. The acoustic strings, I got these, which are acoustic strings, but they have an unwound third string, and so that gives you a little more. You can bend it and have a little more of an electric experience if you want. But these strings feel really good, and they feel new. There's no black coming off on my fingers that sometimes you get with new guitars. So the tuning stability seems really good. I cranked on the truss rod multiple times trying to alleviate what I consider to be the major problem with this guitar, and that is that the action is incredibly high. And a lot of people suggest taking the bridge saddle off and sanding it. And I'm sure at some point in time I might do that, but I would just have to say this. Not that I have any expectation that Donna would ever watch this video, but if you go online and you look at this guitar, the number one complaint people have is that the action is too high, that the truss rod has not been adjusted at all, and that the saddle needs to be popped out and you need to sand it down. And it just seems to me that if you want to be successful at what you're doing, you solve that problem out of the factory. You say to your vendor, hey, we need saddles that are thinner from top to bottom so that we're getting better action. Now, again, for an acoustic guitar, I don't think you're really looking to get action equal to an electric guitar. And if you're buying this to shred, you bought the wrong guitar. But still, the action wasn't even close to being reasonable. I still may adjust the truss rod a little bit more, although the relief on the neck seems to be good. The neck seems to be fairly straight, at least as far as my eye can tell. And when I put the capo on the first fret and use the feeler gauge, it feels good, at least down in that area. The other thing that's interesting about this guitar, and also my IYV guitar, that has I call it a piezo. Everyone can giggle. I guess the correct term is piezo. You know, Mama Italiano. But anyways, the piezo pickup, the piezo, whatever you want to call it, absolutely silent on this guitar and absolutely silent on the IYV guitar. So when Bullfighter tells me, oh, we talked to the factory and the factory says that hum is normal for a piezo, I think it's normal when you don't ground it properly and you don't shield it properly. That being said, that's their business. I have a feeling that more than a few of their guitars are going back specifically because people just don't like that low-level hum. Anyways, this is absolutely silent. As everyone has pointed out, the fret ends on this, smooth as glass. I guess this is some kind of composite fretboard. You know, when this guitar was selling for $250, for what it is, I would say it was a value. Look, I got it for $79 as a refurbished, and you know, it comes with a little gig bag. Again, people pointed out the obvious things. They should have put a second post here without the need for the little bolt, just like this one only has the little bolt holding right here. This one just goes in. They should have put a second one here to stabilize this. Another person suggested actually tying the strap with a shoelace so that you get more of an angle, because this does have serious neck dive, obviously, because it's such a light body. But when you're sitting down and you have this resting on your knee, it's fairly stable. The mahogany looks nice. The match job is sort of questionable, but hey, for the price, you can see it's a three-piece body. But it is pretty amazing to think that it's neck through body construction. Again, I mentioned that the tuners seem incredibly stable. Once you tune this thing up, it just seems to hold the tune nice. And on my Fender Mustang LT25, is that what it is? Modeling amp. There's a model in there for an acoustic guitar that really fits really nice with this. I mean, it just, you know, no, it doesn't sound like a $5,000, $10,000 Martin, but should it? Again, for the price, it does what you want it to do. And so overall, I'm really impressed. That being said, we know how that goes. You know, we just did the Bullfighter last week, and the first part of the video, I was like fairly impressed. Knock on wood, the hum doesn't like show up. Because of the Bullfighter, it seemed like there was no hum the first time, and then as I continued to use it, the hum started to develop. So hopefully this doesn't have the same elevating hum syndrome. Let's hope not anyways. So, yes, for the final time, it is August the 12th, 2024. This is the Donner Hush 1 Silent Travel Guitar. We will be back in a week with further thoughts, but for the moment, very impressed. And I'm imagining if I show some adventure and actually pull the saddle out and sand it down and get the action down even further, maybe a little more truss rod adjustment. I don't want to break the truss rod. That would make me cry. The neck feels really good on this. They call it some asymmetrical gobbledygook. I don't really notice it, but it feels good. The satin finish feels wonderful on your hand. And yeah, so again, for what it is, you know, one of the funny things about, the other thing to mention too, I mean, little things that, you know, I don't know, that makes a difference. I mean, everyone agrees that the second version, the Pro and the X, they upgraded these pop in and out, so you don't have to like mess with the hex wrench and everything, because that's a pain in the ass. Obviously, if you want to travel with this thing, you have to be taking the, for the time being, we're going to call them wings. You have to take the wings off. But you look at little details like this. This is, you know, brushed aluminum, I doubt it, but a metal handle? Come on. And the truss rod cover is like heavy-duty metal. They could have just put plastic. They probably should have. They probably just wanted to add a little weight. But yeah, this gig bag has actually got substantial, I mean, you could call it a semi-hard case on the top and the bottom. The side is very minimal. But as I said, when this thing showed up in this box, this guitar in that gig bag, you could probably toss it off your roof, and unless it hit just right, it probably would survive, because there's just not a lot of mass in the guitar, and it is a, you know, body through neck. So not that I'm suggesting or that I'm going to try it myself, but I'm just saying this is a very what would appear to be a very robust guitar. That being said, take care of your guitar, be semi-gentle with it, and it'll probably give you years and years and years of satisfaction. So we will be back in days, in a week, who knows when, but we'll give further comments, and we'll see you then. Welcome back, everybody. It is now Thursday afternoon. It is August the 15th, 2024. As you notice, you're looking at a blank space, and the reason being is that the guitar that this video is about is on its way back to the cellar. And I'll give you the long story in the quickest amount of time. As you well know, when I unpacked the guitar, overall, I was quite pleased, quite impressed. The one issue that I wasn't impressed with was the incredibly high action. And I was unimpressed for multiple reasons, but mostly because if you look at the reviews on the Donner Hush 1i, Hush Dash, I'm calling it the Hush I, travel guitar, many people, not all, but many people complained about the high action, about the fact that the saddle was too tall. And because it's a set neck guitar, you can't remedy that with a shim. And the neck did have some backbow in it, so I used the truss rod adjustment tool and got the neck nice and straight, but even that was not enough to compensate for the fact that the saddle's just way too tall. Now, I would understand that if it had been a brand new guitar and it's just coming from the factory in China to Donner and Donner's shooting them out, I wouldn't expect them to open up all the guitars. But this was a refurbished guitar, which means that it was actually in somebody's hand. Going through the refurbishing process, whatever that was. Fit and finish on the guitar was outstanding. I mean, again, for the price point, the guitar was originally selling for $250 when it was the only one on the block. They've now come out with two other versions, the X, which has, I believe, a humbucker and a single coil, and then the Pro, which is back to just the piezo or piezo pickup with onboard effects and all kinds of other stuff. So that pushed the Hush I down to the bottom of the barrel, so they were blowing them out. They're still blowing them out, but this one was a refurbished model from Donner, and it was only $79.99. And I'll be the first to admit that sometimes I have a terrible case of FOMO, which is fear of missing out. I saw it at $79.99 and just went, you know, why not? And the truth of the matter is, I did not love the guitar. But again, you have to sort of accept it for what it is. It's a small-bodied, very light. It's a travel guitar. For what it was made for, was actually really nice. But the fact that somebody in the refurbished department held it in their hands and saw just the outrageous, and I mean outrageous, it was just beyond anything I've ever seen before. Now again, it wouldn't matter at all if you had an adjustable bridge, or you had a bolt-on neck and you could do some shimming, but given that it's a set neck and it's a fixed saddle, there's nothing you can do other than you have to pull the saddle off and you have to sand it down. And for those who are handy and inclined, probably they're laughing and saying, hey, it's no big deal. I buy guitars to play them. And the vast majority of guitars I get, other than minor adjustments, sometimes the fret ends need to be tended to, sometimes a little intonation work. Again, stuff that I can handle and I'm willing to handle, but I wasn't willing to handle this. And so since they had free returns, I sent it back. So my complaint again is that the people in Donner's refurbished department, if they actually have the guitar in their hands and they're looking at it and they're strumming it to make sure that it's okay and they see the action that high, they need to take the incentive to pull the saddle out and sand it down and make it acceptable. And they chose not to. So they have a guitar coming back to them, which is too bad. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, and I just mentioned again, I didn't love this guitar. But I would not have sent it back just for that, because I knew I was buying something that was different. And I was willing to accept it for its differences. But I just wasn't willing to do any work on it at all, other than I adjusted the truss rod, and it took massive adjustment. It got to the point where it was so tight, I didn't want to go any further. for fear that I was going to break the truss rod, and I guarantee you I did not. I stopped before any damage was done. But again, I just really felt like it wasn't up to me as the consumer, unless they want to sell it as a kit or as a project guitar. I just wasn't willing to do the work, so I boxed it up and sent it back. So anyways, if you're interested in this guitar, heed the reviews. And again, I'm not really sure why some of the reviews don't mention it, and other people, it's the first thing out of their mouth. Holy gee whiz, look at that action. And I don't understand why Donner, because this guitar's been out now for over a year, why they haven't contacted the factory and told them to correct it before it even goes out. Because, I mean, really, nothing speaks unhappiness, which to me is just, I've owned many acoustic guitars and the action was always fine because they took the time to look at it and make the adjustment on the saddle as needed to give you good action, right? And again, I'm not talking shredder action. I'm not talking, the strings laying on the frets, but it's certainly within reason. This wasn't even close. So anyways, I'm going to post this. Otherwise, it's a very interesting guitar. So it definitely, and I have to say Donner's customer service was outstanding. They were with me the whole way, and they finally offered me 10% off, but for an $80 guitar, $79.99, 10% off was like $9, and that just, again, wasn't enough for me. And I'm glad they didn't offer more, because I might have been tempted to keep it, and it's best that I send it back. And hopefully they'll make an adjustment to this one when they have it in their hands, so when they send it out to the next person. Otherwise, it's going back to them exactly. I mean, I only had it for a couple of days. Played it sparingly. And, so I put all the accessories back in, and I put the paper back on the frets, and, so it's going back to them in perfect shape, so there should be no issues with the refund. And I do have another guitar coming tomorrow, and you will roll your eyes when you see it, but we'll wait till tomorrow. So that's all. Thank you very much.